in this edition of our Porchcast, where we're basically talking to people that I've got great familiarity with and have had a huge impact in the Lowcountry. Today, I'm joined with my previous neighbor, Dr. John Batson. And man, it's great seeing you.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Thanks for coming and hanging out on a porch on this beautiful pre-summer day.
This is just a classic Lowcountry scene right here. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, just kind of putting some perspective of our history together. I think the most intensive time we've had together was the 10 plus years we were neighbors down in Sea Pines, where you're still living in your beautiful new home down on Calabogie Cay, and with your beautiful wife, Alice, and just really enjoyed the time we had together there. And
Yep.
Yet that's a brief snippet of your Lowcountry history. And you were born and raised here, is that right? Or just about?
I'd say raised here. I was born in Greenville.
Okay.
And moved here with my mom not long after. So was in Sea Pines Montessori and on up to graduate high school here.
Okay. So your mom, the famous Betty Batson, right? Who
Right.
in my early days of real estate, going back almost 30 years ago, she ended up being a mentor of some, because she was such a pioneer. I mean, she was a strong-willed individual and was very successful in her business, wasn't she?
Yeah, it's always funny when I see people and they say, "Was your mom Betty Batson?" And I just never know what the response is going to be, because it can be quite different ends of the spectrum of, boy, she was an amazing lady, or boy, she was a force of nature.
She was both,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
She was both. And force of nature, 6 kids?
6 kids, yeah.
Are you the
I was the
youngest?
youngest, right.
Okay.
So she was married twice, had 4, last name Dement, and then married my dad, Batson, and my next sibling is 10 years older than me, and the Dements are another 10 years before that. So
Okay. So your oldest sibling is how old? How big of a separation is that?
she probably doesn't want me saying that, but I'm
We won't name her.
I'm 52.
Okay. Well, she's older than that.
Right.
Let's just put it that way. That's good. Well, during the time that I've known you, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit, to me, when I think about you, I think about the water. I think about this island and the water. And some of that dates back to some of your original time with outside Hilton Head, Mike Overton. Take us back to those early days, because you were teaching all sorts of water activities.
Right. Yeah. I was, as many kids are, if you grow up with a single mom, you're somewhat lost in the shuffle of things. And she was always looking for camps to get me in so she could go off and sell real estate.
Yeah.
And so it was probably about this time of year that she dropped me off to learn how to windsurf. And I was, I think, 11 or 12, and had no idea what this was, but I just knew I wasn't very good at sports. And so I was upset about it. I was like, I can't believe you're dropping me off to learn this sport, that's on the water. I really wasn't into the water. And but it was just a total life-changing event.
Yeah.
These people that led by Mike Overton, it was Windsurfing Hilton Head at the time.
Okay, right.
But they really became family. He's become like my dad. And I ended up the next year kind of doing odd jobs with him, and then eventually ended up working with him, teaching windsurfing, and then kayaking came down, teaching kayaking. And that evolved into a love of the marsh and the biology. And so majored in biology at College of Charleston. And then hurt my back doing all the windsurfing stuff and got interested in medicine. And so you can see how it just kind of goes on
progressing.
and on. Right.
Well, so College of Charleston, and then you were at USC Medical
Right, for
School?
medical school, yes.
Yeah. So you have you ever left the state of South Carolina?
Yes. Very brief period. So I interviewed at a bunch of places for both residency and sports medicine fellowship, but I kept coming back to South Carolina for my training. But
Yeah.
When I got out, I did work for 4 years in Columbia, and then developed a bit more of an interest in pain medicine and spine care, and found a fellowship that was in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And so did go up.
That was your snippet.
Yeah, that was 1 year out of the South. And it was a great experience. Loved the people, loved the training. And it was after that Alice and I moved back down to Hilton Head and started practicing.
So I'm thinking about the pain thing, your medical practice, Lowcountry spine and sport, right? And so that where you experienced back pain from windsurfing, etc. is that sort of why you ended up going in that direction?
Yeah, very, very much so. I just was struggling getting over a back injury in college. And now I kind of know a little bit about what was going on, but it was seeing a sports oriented physician that kind of said, okay, you're going to get over this. Here's our rehab protocol that we need to do. And I kind of walked out of, it was a place like this in Beaufort, walked out of the office and on the porch said, okay, I want to go to med school.
Yeah.
And so that started that process. And I've always just loved being with active people. The practice now is, it's a lot of senior arthritis care and just trying to keep people in the game, so to speak, and keep them independent and loving, keeping doing what they love to do.
Has pickleball helped your practice at all?
Well, it does. We see a lot of somewhat traumatic injuries with pickleball, where like golf, it's a bit more the overuse stuff.
Okay.
So I don't see as many overuse pickleball, I think, because it's just not as much overall movement, but they do fall. And so it's definitely, we've seen studies where we're seeing more wrist fractures or ankle fractures in folks. So to a degree, I have a lot of pickleball players, but fortunately not as many. I had one this week, though, that did have a back injury from playing a lot of pickleball. So.
Yeah. Well, I've just heard that, that's keeping the orthopedics in business and that sort of, it's a renewed kind of
I can't believe that.
This
is so strange to think back. Like when I first started practicing, someone would say pickleball, and I just was like, I don't even know what this is. And I started Googling, and Google wasn't that big of a deal then, but now it's like exploded. So
you just dated yourself again.
I know.
So anyway, Lowcountry Spine and Sport, you're seeing all sorts of people for all sorts of reasons, pain management and that sort of thing. And so let's go back though to the windsurfing thing, because if anybody who's watching has probably seen this on the RBC Heritage and even prior names to the golf tournament and Sea Pines through the years. How many years have you been in the spotlight? I think it's pretty much on your windsurfer. Is that pretty much?
Pretty much always on the windsurfer.
How many years have you been doing that?
Almost 40.
Okay, 40 years.
Right. So I think when I was 13, we all took a pontoon boat out there and did it as a group. And I've just kind of kept it going. And it's there have been a couple years where if I was out in med school or whatnot, I just couldn't make it home. But for the most part, I've kept it going. Even if the weather was bad or there was no wind or just crazy wind, there would be a little snippet of me flashing across the screen. And it's always fun to have people kind of write in now with social media. It's fun because I get home and just have so many messages. I saw you again, So
does Jim Nance know your name? Does he know you?
I don't think so.
Okay, but he knows your profile out there.
Yeah, right.
Is that always on Sunday, or do you do Saturday? Sunday, usually Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you haven't seen him, you got to check him out on that. But that's going to be you each year,
right,
in perpetuity, right?
The classic year was very shifty wind. Low tide, and I was trying to kind of stay in where I knew kind of I needed to be on the camera, and sure enough, I fell in, and
they caught it.
They happened to be there, and so Jim Nance said, "Oh, rookie." And as you can imagine, when I got home, I had so many messages that said "rookie."
Right, of course you did.
Yeah.
Well, so in all those years, 40 years of windsurfing, you have a skill that I definitely don't have, and probably a lot of people feel the same way, which is balance on loose and tipsy-turvy water. And it's great when the sail's pulling you along and that sort of thing. But then you shifted gears, and when we were neighbors, I think Glenn Barancini was probably our good friend of mine, good friend of yours too, was probably one of the first people I saw on a stand-up paddleboard, an SUP, right?
Right.
And then the next thing I know, Dr. John Batson is in the creek. You used to windsurf in the creek, and that was kind of narrow and real tricky, and probably honed your skills that way. But the next thing I know, you're on this paddleboard, and that's evolved into some serious distance.
Right. Yeah. As I mentioned, we shifted towards sea kayaking and exploring the marsh and all that, and I found it to be a great workout. So I actually took one with me to college a couple times and was really kind of interjecting that into my workout routine, and I just loved it. But then I got on a paddleboard, and when they became a little more fancy, carbon and faster and all this, I was like, man, this is great because now I can really see stuff.
Yes.
And it's a great workout. So not only you're balancing, but then it's just a really good upper body workout.
That's your sport.
Right.
That's
So
your real sport.
I dove in.
You caught, but I've never seen you fall, for what it's worth, which is where I was going with that. But you really have caught the front end of that as a sport, right?
Right.
I mean, it almost seems like you and a group of other guys and gals through the country have sort of piecemealed some events together. And some of that's pretty long distance stuff. I know your training is, but then you brought that locally. So can you tell us about the local paddle event that you brought? I think this is going to be seventh year.
Right. So we were doing a lot of, I happened to see something that popped up and said, come test your skills against the best. And it was this big race around Wrightsville Beach, 13-mile race called the Graveyard.
Yeah.
And so I went up and did it and just loved it. I was like, man, this is awesome. Because I was standing there with people who were, I'm older now, but these kids, I was like, this guy I've seen flip on a windsurfer. He's, these are incredible people out here that I'm standing on the beach with. So it's
that's a beach start, right? So
you
got to have this heavy, long, 11, 12 feet or whatever.
Go around the island.
Okay.
And come back through the
circumnavigate, come back. For how long how long is that supposed to take?
It's like a 2.5 hour race.
Originally, how long would that have taken you? Because you've gotten faster.
About the same. I think I've gotten older though. So anyway, I started getting into these races and doing them more in the Southeast. And there were a lot of little hidden races all across these little lakes and stuff. And I kept coming back to Hilton Head and saying, man, why don't we have a race here?
These waters are perfect.
Right. So I talked to Mike Overton. I said, I really think we should have a race. And I was already involved with the Outside Foundation.
Yeah.
And I said, what if we bring this race in and we raise money from the race for the Outside Foundation? Our goal with the Outside Foundation is getting kids in kayaks. So it all fit perfectly.
Right.
So that's kind of what we've done for the last 7 years. And so we teamed up. Olakai wanted a little involvement. He just happened to know them. And so that was a great connection for us.
So they're the title sponsor.
They're the title sponsor.
Yeah.
They're like the RBC of our race.
Right. And you've got a lot of local sponsors. We've been
including
a sponsor, we've been a sponsor in kind here and there with the use of the truck and some other things. It's really turned into a big event. It's not just a one event. It's a weekend. Is that right?
Right. So we've expanded a little bit. Last year we hosted the USA Sup Nationals. So they rotate around, but they pick a race they think is being run well, and they came to us. So Friday is a sprint race that's real short, 100 meters. Saturday is the distance race where it's usually 5K or 10K.
Okay.
And then Sunday is a beach tech course out of Sea Pines Beach Resort.
Okay.
So like you mentioned, it was a sport that's evolving and it's trying to get more organized.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of hear that in what I'm saying, that now they've got a sprint discipline and now you've got the distance 5K, 10K.
Right.
And then these beach tech courses. So.
So it's opening up and broadening to different people's interest, skill, endurance, etc.
Yeah.
And so how many participants do you expect to maybe have this year based on last year?
We'll usually have 100 to 150, somewhere in there.
Okay.
So it's a good crowd. The day one with the sprints, probably about 50, and day three with the tech, probably about 50. Day two, we include kayaks and surf skis and these outrigger canoes. So it's a little bit more. That's our big day.
Do you have one of those dragon races? I've seen these dragon boats out there.
Yeah.
Do you have a dragon race that's part of that?
Every year we're trying to do something a little bit different. And this year, in an effort to kind of get the community involved, we combine with the Island Rec Center.
Yeah.
And one thing we're doing is trying to get a lot of kids down there. So we'll have a kids zone, but we'll also have 2 dragon boats where kids get to paddle with a pro, get them in the boat, see what that's all about. So
I see those guys practicing out here, and it's pretty cool.
I was here this week. Cool. I'm doing it this year.
Were you on Tuesday out here? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you weren't the guy that was off saying.
No, of course not.
All right, so that's something for people to check out. That's coming up. Is that August or when?
September 5th through the 7th. Yeah.
Okay, 5th through 7th. Make a note of that in case you're interested. Locals, non-locals, set your time to come into town. That's a great time of year to come into town.
a big paddler. We have a competitive group, and then there's a group that's out there just having a good time. Maybe some bragging rights amongst some of the locals, things like that. But it can be just a fun event. Come have some good low country food.
Yeah.
The rowing and sailing center is an incredible spot.
Right.
So
north end of the island up there.
Yeah.
Anybody needs to borrow a paddleboard, I have the one that you compelled me to buy that I've been on maybe 3-4 times. I have no
discussion
balance.
is we're challenging Chip to get out there this year.
Edit that out. We're not doing that. Well, let's go back. Let's keep going on the water, because the other thing that you talked about earlier, but is ecology and just protecting these waterways. That seems to be a really significant passion of yours. And I know we teamed up recently a couple of years ago with the Lowcountry Trash Heroes. Yeah. And a lot of that was waterside trash pickup right up in the marshes and that sort of thing. Right. And guys, if you haven't, take a look at John's feed on Facebook. But whenever he's out there on these long paddles, and ordinarily he's coming back with a bunch of trash that you've collected along the way, because it's almost like you can't pass it by. Yeah. Like you got to stop and pick it up. Where does that come from?
I think my mom used to always say, I'd walk the beach with the dogs and she'd say, "What treasure did you find?" And I'd be coming in with all these weird bones or something. And then it became, man, did you get trash or treasure this time? And so it's something that all of a sudden now I'm seeing it a lot easier up on a paddleboard. Yeah, and two, just obviously our local awareness of a issue. We're trying to protect our environment, and you just start to see things, and especially if you're out there, you see it. We had a group of like-minded individuals and said, let's form this Lowcountry Trash Heroes. And it works really well with the Outside Foundation, because one of the arms of the Outside Foundation is coordinating large-scale cleanups that are in the marsh.
Okay.
But yeah, it's amazing, like especially around the bridges, that how much blows off
the back of trucks.
Yeah, and
not that people are necessarily actively littering, right, but a lot of it's just because of the wind picks it up.
But just you go over the bridge, the wind swirls a bit, things come popping out, and and then there's just certain spots, so to speak, that seem to be having more trouble, more collections, right? And then these storms that we've had, every once in a while, that kind of pushes a bunch of stuff here or there. So it's been a eye-opening experience how much stuff is out there. But you're right, it's hard to just paddle by it and not pick it up.
Well, it's such a beautiful natural area that these things stand out. I mean, we're blessed with most people being conscientious about it, right? Which is great. But nonetheless, things do happen and that sort of thing. And so, it's when there's not much of it, a little bit of it stands out, right? You want to go after it and that sort of thing. And some of the other things that I've seen you dealing with recently are abandoned sailboats. I know there's been one up in Broad Creek that you've been kind of paying attention to, and that sort of thing. That catches your attention again the more you're on the water, right?
Right. I kept seeing the boat that's of concern on its side, and just one night it had only been a few weeks, but I said I'll just paddle by and see what's going on with this boat. And as soon as I got there was a bunch of fuel in the water, and man, I just couldn't believe it. And so learning the process of getting a boat pumped out with the fuel was frustrating and interesting, just the channels you have to go through. And
Coast Guard is the primary player in that.
They got involved, and they were very helpful and whatnot. And but yeah, it was, if I wasn't out there paddling by, this just would still be leaking out, in the water. And it obviously you see something like that, and the abandoned boat becomes much more of an issue more than just an eyesore. Sure.
Yeah. So, now it's a concern to wildlife and the sort, right? And anyway, so that's caught my attention, et cetera. So it just seems, I was thinking about this. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are on the water a lot, but you've spent a lot of time on the water. I mean, I'm sure you haven't counted up the hours, but you're out there more than a lot of boat captains and that sort of thing. Because when you're out there doing your practice runs on your stand-up paddleboard, it's hours, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's
I do work
past dark, but it's past dark, right? I've seen you out there. You've got a little beacon on you, and
so I do work, but yes, it is a
I'm just saying it's a passion for
Right,
you,
it's a
right? It's a nice
passion.
balance.
It's your running. It's it's nice to have a passion. It's great to have something that I can generally clear my mind from work
Yeah, of
and
course.
get great exercise, and then on top of that, just see what's going on and hopefully find little things that we can help with as a community along the way.
Yeah, and you get out there and you're on your boat, right? I've been out with you and Alice once or twice. You guys taught me how to kneeboard and that sort of thing, and maybe to ski. I forget what I was doing.
Wakeboarding with you.
Wakeboarding. That's the first time I did that. We need to get together and do that again. I'm not brave enough to do it on my own. I need someone like you that can deal with the pain
afterwards.
When I wipe out.
Right.
And so let's just touch base on one last thing with the Outside Foundation, and that just speak to that. You talked about that effort of getting kids primarily out on the water. How does that materialize? Not just with the race you put together, but other events where kids are actually getting out on the water, mainly on kayaks and that sort of. Is that what that looks like?
Yeah, that's right. So we had a goal with the Outside Foundation to get every child in Beaufort County in a kayak during their middle school years.
Wow.
And so we partner with the local schools, and any child, regardless of financial kind of concerns, can get in a kayak, learn about our local ecosystem. They have kind of a field trip on a dock, and part of it is getting in a kayak and getting in the water. And it's crazy to think it, but if a tourist coming as a child down here has a more likely chance of getting on the water than our local kids.
Sure.
And so
because they got the free time, they're compelled to do it. Mom and dad take them out there and that sort of thing.
You combine that with just general inactivity in youth that is across the nation. It's a great way. Obviously, I'm kind of a good example of taking kind of an ugly duckling, so to speak, and getting them on the water, and all of a sudden things just change dramatically for their life. So that's our goal. We hopefully influence a couple of them to say, okay, we love getting out here, go work with outside Hilton Head or whoever, and become a boat captain and kayak guide. Get involved with cleaning wherever you are in your local community, things like that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we hit that goal. Outside Foundation just been in organization 10 years now, and we got every child last year in Beaufort County on the water. I think it's 1,400.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And is there where is that launch, or is it across different locations?
Yeah, a few different spots. A lot in Shelter Cove Harbor where we have the resources there with kayaks.
Yeah. And then are you active in that? Are you able to now and again get out there and help them launch? Or
I'm on the board. I do. I'm more just kind of on the advisory committee, so to speak, and trying to get good ideas to fundraise. That's a big part of this.
Of course it is.
The race for me is that's my big contribution, and every year we hopefully kind of bring in a good amount of funding to help with the kids.
So all the funds from that ultimately route in that direction.
This year we're combining with the rec center, so we'll have some funds going to the rec center as well. But generally, yes, we've raised a good bit for the Outside Foundation.
What about the Page Island event? Is that still happening on an annual basis?
That's our big fundraiser for the Outside Foundation.
And what does that look like?
So Page Island is a very unique place, kind of nestled back behind Defusky.
Right.
And it's a series of 7 islands. And Outside Hilton Head, Outside Brands does a lot of team building on the island.
Yeah.
And so for that one day, Page Island, the retreat, we basically boat people over. So we load people up at Palmetto Bluff or Harbor Town, come over for the day.
So you don't need a boat. You'll ferry over. You could take your own boat.
You can take your own boat, which is kind of cool. It's a great excursion.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get shuttled over there, and then there's live auction. There's
food,
great Lowcountry, usually done by Bluffton Oyster Factory, Larry Toomer.
Yeah.
But it's a great event that gets people out somewhere. Just that you're not seeing anything it's like it used to be, which is really pretty
pure,
amazing.
Pristine. Right. I'm laughing because in the background here, I've got this pair of binoculars that I bought at auction at Page Island for that event. Yeah. So I can attest that you can get some great items there at a nice price, and yet more importantly, just for a great cause.
It's kind of like the other events for the Heart Ball and whatnot that but you don't have to get dressed up.
Yeah.
So you're
Right.
coming over in comfortable clothes, and it's usually kind of in the cooler months, which is great. So
And everybody's happy there.
Yeah.
It seems
it's
like
a good group.
Mike's done a great job with Outside Hilton Head and the Outside brand, et cetera, and the foundation, that just people getting to truly benefit by experiencing this beautiful
I think that's
location.
been his big thing, is just immersion, and then you see just how amazing it is. I mean, if you get, as you know, living here, you get walking in the pluff mud. You never know what pluff mud is like until you walk through it,
or smells like,
Right.
feels like,
right?
or how it pulls you in.
Seeing the tide, just little things that oftentimes I think we take for granted here, but just that's a huge tide swing, and it's what a difference. You come out here and boat or paddle low tide versus high tide. It's a completely different experience.
Yeah.
So I think just seeing that, learning that, being immersed in it, that's really what hopefully gets people out involved and caring for this place.
Yeah, and that's you're the embodiment of that in your life so far, because you've been immersed in it, and now you're training other people how to do it, inspiring other people how to do it, and
keep trying. That's right. It's just been great for me for work, because work is busy, but it's nice to just have something totally different. I mean, running the race, I think about it, just learning the whole process with the town, and meeting so many different people that have to be involved to make it successful, safe, and kind of a impactful fundraiser.
Well, you're traveling around all these different races, and you're spreading the word while you're there, and you've got all your pack of friends is growing and growing, and I'm sure that a lot of those folks end up coming here too.
Right.
So
yeah, it's a lot like your running triathlon races. It's kind of a little niche crowd that they love this stuff too. So
and you get that endorphin crowd, right? Yeah, what the endorphins kick in after how many paddles?
Right. Sometimes it's hard. I paddled last night. It was hard to find the endorphins. I made it through, but
but they're not always either. Not
always easy.
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate you hanging out today on the porch and just sharing what you've done for the Lowcountry. It's just really amazing, and your history right here in South Carolina, right here in Hilton Head, is inspiring, and you do it quietly. So I want to have the chance to kind of share what you do with these other folks that are watching, and hopefully they'll pick up what you're doing on Facebook, and they'll check out Outside Hilton Head. They'll check out your race in the fall, and get out and enjoy the water.
Everyone's welcome at the race. Good way to meet everybody and just experience this firsthand.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Chip.
All right, bud. See ya.